Court of Common Pleas is again in session. The Honorable Christine Croce presiding.
Thank you. You may be seated. All right, Mr. D'Angelo, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Mr. Barkhurst, before we talk any more about your narrative presentation, I do want to clarify some of your previous testimony, talk to you about some of your previous testimony. You had indicated that at the residence at 714 Fultz, that you had reviewed video testimony from a certain time frame. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm going to put on the document camera State's Exhibit number 35. You had identified this, and this was previously identified by another witness. Do you see that here, there, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this video from State's Exhibit number 35 is from what house?
714 Fultz Street.
Okay, and the time frame here is for what time frame?
April 17, 2016, 2300 hours to 0 hours, April 18, 2016.
And you've reviewed all of this video on this disc.
Yes.
Do you know, can you tell the jury if this time period here takes into account the time difference that you previously testified to?
Can you repeat the question?
Does this time frame, 2300 to 000 hours, does that take into account the 3 hour and 55 minute time difference that you previously testified to?
No.
Okay. So when we look at this, it's really from 2:55 to 3:55. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. And the testimony you gave, you said that you had reviewed some camera footage from 10 a.m. to, I believe, 4 a.m. Do you recall that?
10 p.m. I think it was.
10 p.m. to 4 a.m.
10 p.m. to around 3:30 a.m.
Okay. And what house was that in reference to?
That was at 719 Fultz.
All right. Now, Mr. Barkhurst, I'm going to draw your attention back to your document camera there. And we're beginning to talk a little bit about movements and things that you're noting in the narrative presentation. And I believe before lunch I asked you what types of things you're putting in the narrative presentation in the video presentation. What are those things that you're putting in there?
Activity that stands out to me, vehicles that that are seen potentially several times. Also, movement around the time of the fire.
Do the cameras always pick up video?
No.
And tell the jury why not. Why won't they always pick up video?
The motion detection can affect when the cameras can pick up video in motion.
Are there times in these cameras that we can't see beyond a certain point, or we just can't see a certain length?
There are times where we just don't have video.
Okay. And in looking at the cameras themselves, for example, this slide that's on the camera, I mean, we just can't see after a certain point down the street. Is that fair?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Barkhurst, I'm handing you a series of documents that have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits number 80 through 87. Please take a minute to look at those and let me know when you're finished.
Okay.
Mr. Barkhurst, did you have a chance to assist in preparation of a timeline that goes along with your narrative presentation?
Yes.
And State's Exhibits 80 through 87, what did these documents represent?
Observations on the video and information, for example, from alarm.com.
Okay, is this the timeline you assisted in preparing?
Yes.
Fair and accurate depiction of the timeline you assisted?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd ask that I have permission to pass these on.
All right, you may publish to the jury. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to receive a packet of exhibits that are marked 80 through 87. They correspond with the posters that are going to be up here that Mr. I think Barkhurst is going to testify to. Again, they are for demonstrative purposes only. When the testimony is complete, we will collect them, and if they are admitted into evidence, that being the posters, you'll have those at the time of deliberation. But that is ultimately a decision for the court to make, whether they are or are not admissible. So, but at this time, you're going to use what you have in your hand, if you choose to, for demonstrative purposes. And your objection is noted and overruled.
Just for the record, in case.
Okay, Mr. Barkhurst, we have the documents that you marked as, or you identified as State's Exhibits 80 through 87 are also on a poster board next to you. Do you see that poster board there, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'd like to reference you to slide 17, which is on the video screen next to you, and tell the jury what you're noting here.
At timestamp 12/26/33, vehicle moving frame map.
Okay. And it's a vehicle. Is it a car or a truck? Can you tell from this photo?
That's a truck.
Okay. And the truck has what going along the bottom of it? Would you describe that as?
Stripe.
Stripe. This truck, it says here, and is that noted on your timeline, sir?
The time and truck drives down Fultz. Yes.
Okay. And that you have on the timeline 12:26 a.m. Is that fair?
Yes.
Now, it's traveling in a direction down Fultz. It says on your timeline towards Height. Is Height in that direction? Do you know? Can you describe that to the jury?
Yes.
Okay, so Height is, if you're looking at the map, as I'm pointing to here, below 719 Fultz.
Yes.
In the map that you have located here, this Google Earth map, what are you showing here with the arrow and the channel marked? What are you trying to show at that point?
Just the direction where camera 4 is pointing.
Okay. How many times do you see this truck? I mean, if you know approximately how many times you see this truck when you're watching this video.
I don't know the exact number, but multiple times potential of that truck.
Going up and down the street.
Yes.
And as you testified, you're just noting movement, and you're putting it on the timeline and in your narrative presentation.
Yes.
All right, slide 18. Can you tell the jury what you're showing here?
That's the vehicle moving frame rate.
And what time is that?
12:40:41.
And that truck, or that vehicle, is going towards what street?
It's going towards East Avenue.
Okay. And as we look here on State's Exhibit number 12, which is behind you, so the jury has some reference. I'm sure they already know this, but I just want to make sure the record's clear. Can you please point to where East Avenue is?
East Avenue is up here.
Okay. Okay, next I'd like to move to slide 19. Can you tell the jury what you're noting here in your narrative presentation?
At 12:58:07 a.m., vehicle moving frame left.
Okay. Appears to be the same truck we saw in the prior slides.
Yes.
It's moving towards what street?
That's moving toward height.
Is that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
Okay. That would be State's Exhibit 81. It's noted. Okay. Now, next I'm referencing slide 20. Mr. Barkhurst, what are you noting on this slide?
At 1:08:21 a.m., individual about to get into the vehicle.
Okay. And you have here on your timeline, is that noted on your timeline, sir?
Yes.
Were you able to learn that that individual was a Mr. Costa?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're at slide 21. What are you noting here? What are you showing?
At 1:09:10 a.m., vehicle exits driveway.
Okay. And this is from what, just so the record's clear, what camera?
Camera 4.
At what address?
That's 719 Fultz Street.
Slide 22, can you tell the jury what you're showing here?
1:26 a.m., vehicle moving frame left.
So 1:20:26 a.m. And that section here, when it says 1:20:26, what is the 26?
Seconds.
Seconds. Okay, so it's at 1:20 a.m. and 26 seconds, you see a car moving, frame left.
So I see a vehicle moving frame left.
In what direction is that going towards?
Towards height.
And that is noted on your timeline, sir?
Yes.
Our next slide is slide 23. Can you tell the jury what you're showing here?
1:43:43 a.m., vehicle backing up into driveway.
Okay. And were you, during the course of your looking into this case, were you able to learn that that, again, was Mr. Costa that's coming back?
Yes.
Is that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
That's slide 24 there. Tell the jury what you're showing here.
At 1:44:01 a.m., individual exits vehicle.
Okay. And just so we're clear, this is from the video from 719 Fultz, Channel 4.
Yes.
Slide 25. Can you tell the jury what you're noting here on this slide?
At 2:10:03 a.m., vehicle moving frame right.
Is this noted on your timeline?
Yes.
And that's on State's Exhibit 84?
Yes.
Once again, this appears to be a truck. Is that fair?
Yes.
And what's on the bottom side of that truck?
Start.
Okay. It's going in what direction?
Frame right towards East Avenue.
Mr. Barkhurst, I'm showing you two documents that have been marked for identification purposes, a State's Exhibit number 18 and 88. Do you see those photographs here?
Yes.
Mr. Barkhurst, State's Exhibit number 18, can you tell the jury what this is?
It's an overview map of the area.
All right. And down here on the bottom of State's Exhibit number 18, there's an address listed as 1608 East Avenue. Do you know what that location is, sir?
I believe it's the Circle K.
And did you see a Circle K at that when you went out and viewed the scene?
I was not at that scene.
Okay. Next, I'm going to show you a document marked State's Exhibit number 88. Do you see this picture here, sir?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you see there in the corner of this photograph?
Truck.
And what does it have on the bottom of the truck?
Stripe.
I'm going to bring State's Exhibit 88 back to you, sir. Can you read the time there for us?
2/11/26.
Mr. Barker, so I'm going to show you a series of documents. They've been marked for identification purposes. State's Exhibits 21, 89, through 92. State's Exhibit 22, 23, and State's Exhibits 93 through 99. Can you please take a minute to look at all these documents? Let me know when you're finished. Mr. Parkhurst, we're going to go over these photographs individually, but very generally, can you tell the jury what these documents show?
A truck with stripe.
Okay. Located at what appears to be what?
Circle K.
Okay, sir. Mr. Barkhurst, I'm going to show on the document camera State's Exhibit number 21. Do you see that there, sir?
Yes.
And describe for the jury what you're showing in State's Exhibit 21.
It's a truck with a stripe.
Okay. And it's difficult to read, but can you read the time there up on the top?
2:25:53 a.m.
Okay. And is that time noted on your timeline, State's Exhibit 84?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 89, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay, and we see a person here, is that fair?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 90, can you tell the jury what we're looking at in this photograph?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay, and you see another individual here?
I see an individual there. Yes.
State's Exhibit 91, tell the jury what you're looking at in this photograph?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. Once again, another photograph of an individual, is that fair?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 92, can you tell the jury what we're looking at in this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. See another individual?
I see an individual. Yes.
Okay. Just so we're clear, the time appears to be what at this juncture?
2:26:12 a.m.
State's Exhibit 22, can you tell the jury what we're looking at in this photo?
A truck with a stripe.
Okay, and we see, what do we see over here in the corner of State's Exhibit 22?
An individual.
State's Exhibit 23, what do we see in this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. And we see now more people, is that fair, sir?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 93, what do you see in this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. Again, you see this individual in the corner, is that fair?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 94. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Truck with a stripe.
And individuals there at this location?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 95. What do you see here, sir?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay, and you see an individual there is walking, is that fair?
Yes.
And can you read the time there?
2:27:38 a.m.
Okay. State's Exhibit 96. Can you describe that for the jury?
A truck with a stripe.
Okay. And we see an individual, is this the front or the back of an individual that you see?
The back.
State's Exhibit 97. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at this, on this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. And what's the time there up on the top?
2:27:55 a.m.
State's Exhibit number 98. Can you describe that for the jury?
A truck with a stripe.
Okay. And do you see the individual that appeared to be approaching that car?
Can you ask that again, please?
Do you see that individual that was approaching the car earlier?
On what slide?
State's Exhibit 97.
Okay, yes.
All right. And finally, State's Exhibit number 99. Do you see this photograph?
Yes.
Okay, what do you see?
Truck with a stripe.
Okay. And what time is that?
2:28:06.
Now I'd like to draw your attention back to your narrative presentation, sir. What do you note on this slide?
Vehicle moving frame left.
And what type of vehicle is it?
It's a truck.
With what on the bottom?
Stripe.
And what time is that?
2:28:47 a.m.
In what direction is it traveling?
Moving frame left towards height.
Okay. Is that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next, I'd like to move to slide number 27. Tell the jury what you're noting here.
At 2:56 a.m. That's on the time stamp in the video itself. says second 51. I point out light.
Okay. And what are these lights that we see here where you have the arrow pointed?
I believe that's the rear of a vehicle or something that is reflective.
Describe that to the jury. Why are we seeing that in this video camera?
Because there's infrared cameras.
Okay, and what does that mean?
So the cameras record in the infrared spectrum and they shine infrared light to show what's going on at nighttime.
What types of things give off infrared light?
Things that will reflect infrared light. So from just my experience with watching videos over the years, license plates can be reflective, also the back of vehicles.
And by back of vehicles, what are you describing on the back of a vehicle?
The tail lights.
All right. And what time is this that you're noting this at?
This is at 2:56 a.m.
And why are you noting it?
Because later on the light becomes dark.
Okay. What light?
The light where below the arrow.
Okay. And what is that light? Do you know? Is that a tail light? Is it a license plate light?
It's, without looking here, it's just something reflective.
Okay. So it's some sort of infrared light.
It's the infrared light being reflected off something.
Okay. Now, Mr. Barkhurst, back here on your map, you're noting what here on the map? What are you trying to notate?
On the map is the direction that camera 3 is pointing, general direction.
So this view is from camera 3
Yes.
at what address?
At 714 Fultz Street.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to move to slide 28. What are you noting here?
At second 52, it's dark, so that light is not there.
All right. Is this darkening of this tail light, is that noted on your timeline?
In the narrative report,
On the timeline that you have in front of you, sir?
at 2:56. Yes,
And what state's exhibit is that?
85.
What are you showing here in slide 29?
At the second 53 light.
Okay. So we go from second 51 on one slide to second 50 where the light is present. Is that right? So
Yes,
Second 52, the light is not present, correct?
correct,
And then second 53, it is present again.
correct.
Are the lights on? These tail lights, are they on? Can
No.
you tell? Okay. And how can you tell that?
I don't see light on the, excuse me, I don't see light projected on the ground.
Okay. Now, we also see vehicles in the front of this frame, sir, on this slide, and are you seeing the infrared light there too?
Where at?
I'll point to them on your screen here. These vehicles here at the bottom, do you see infrared light coming from those
Yes,
vehicles? Okay. All right. Next, I'd like to move to slide 30. Tell the jury what you're showing here.
that's information from alarm.com. Alarm monitor panel disarmed on 4/18/2016, 2:57 a.m.
Okay. And is that noted on your timeline?
Yes,
Mr. Barkhurst, I'd like to draw your attention to State's Exhibit number 40, which has been previously identified in this case. You see that 40 there, sir, at the bottom of your screen?
Yes.
All right. Next, I'd like to draw your attention to this page. It's going to be page 27 for the record. Okay. Now, can you read, do you see my finger here, sir, on State's Exhibit 40?
Yes.
Can you please read that word for us?
Monitor.
Hold on a second. Yeah, I mean, Mr. D'Angelo, it is what it is. The jury will make the determination as to what the records entail. So your objections to
Mr. Barkhurst, when you say panel disarmed, the records in 40 actually say panel disarmed by Stanley Ford.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're the trier of fact, and how the evidence bears out and who disarmed that alarm will be a decision that you make. Mr. Barkhurst is testifying as to the documents that were provided by Alarm.com, and you've heard testimony from Mr. DaCosta from Alarm.com and his explanation of those things. So you'll rely on your collective memories. You'll be the decider of who disarmed or armed that alarm. Excuse me. Sustained.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, and so you're noting here on your narrative presentation, Mr. Barkhurst, that it's at 2:57 a.m.
Yes.
And these are based on documents that you received from Alarm.com.
Yes.
Mr. Barkhurst, I'd like to draw your attention to slide 31 here on this exhibit, your narrative presentation. Tell the jury what you're noting here.
Vehicle moving frame left.
And this camera is from what address?
That is from 714 Fultz Street.
And what time is that?
The time is 4/18/2016, 3:01 a.m.
3:01 a.m. And is this noted on your timeline?
Yes.
And that's marked as State's Exhibit number what, this form of the timeline?
86.
Okay. The truck is moving in what direction, sir?
Moves towards East Avenue.
Slide number 32, can you tell the jury what you're noting in this slide?
It's the vehicle moving frame right.
Okay. And this is from what camera?
That's from camera 4,
From what address?
719 Fultz Street.
And what are you showing here, sir, at slide number 33?
That vehicle getting ready to turn left on East Avenue
It's turning left on East Avenue at what time?
at 3:02 a.m.
Back to slide 32. What type of vehicle is this, sir?
That's a truck.
And what's on the bottom of the truck?
Stripe.
Mr. Barkhurst, I'm showing you a series of documents that have been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibits 100, 19, 101, 102, and State's Exhibit number 20. Please take a minute to look at those. Let me know when you're finished, sir. Okay, Mr. Barker, generally, just very generally, we'll go over these. What do you see in these photographs?
Gas station pump.
Okay, and what else do you see in these photos?
A truck, stripes, with a stripe.
Now, on your narrative presentation, you have the truck turning left onto East Avenue at what time again, sir?
At 3:02 a.m.
And I'm going to draw your attention to State's Exhibit 100 on the document camera here. What do you see here in the corner, sir?
A truck with stripe.
And what time is it?
3:03:28 a.m.
State's Exhibit number 19. What do we see here in this photograph, sir?
Truck with a stripe.
State's Exhibit number 101. What do we see in this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
And what else is apparent in this photograph?
Individual.
Individual. Okay. State's Exhibit number 102. What do you show in this photo?
Truck with a stripe.
And do you see individuals, two individuals in this photo?
Yes.
Finally, State's Exhibit number 20. What do you see in this photo, sir?
Truck with a stripe.
And what time is that, if you can see it? I can bring it up.
3:04:58 a.m.
Okay. And is this noted on your timeline? This truck at the Circle K?
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit 86. Right. Our next slide, sir. What do we show here at, it looks like 3:02 a.m.?
Vehicle moving frame left.
Okay. And where is that vehicle that you have the arrow pointed to?
It's on the street behind. It's at 1374 Hillcrest.
Okay, so it's on the street behind 1374 Hillcrest, which is what street?
East Avenue.
Okay, so you can kind of see it traveling through that direction. Is that fair?
Yes.
And that's at 3:02 a.m. Okay. Our next slide here, what do you see here at 3:05 a.m.?
Vehicle moving frame right.
Okay. You can't tell what type of vehicle that is that fair?
Yes, correct.
Our next slide, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Vehicle turning onto street.
And our next slide on your narrative presentation, what are you looking at here?
Vehicle moving frame left.
And that's at what time?
3:05:46 a.m.
What type of vehicle is it?
Truck with stripe.
And it's moving in what direction, sir?
Towards height.
Is that on your timeline? Do you have that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I'd like to bring you to the next slide. What are we noting here?
What number slide, Joe?
Hold on. This is slide 38.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question, please?
What are you noting here? What are we looking at in this slide?
A vehicle moving frame right.
And this is from what camera?
Camera 4 from 714 Fultz Street.
Okay. Slide 39, can you tell the jury what you're pointing out in this slide?
A light.
Okay. And where is that light?
That is in the driveway between 1374 Hillcrest Street and 1370 Hillcrest Street.
Okay. Can you please point to the driveway you're referring to, sir?
This driveway?
Okay. So that's where those series of lights are.
Yes.
What type of lights are those again?
The rear lights.
Infrared lights coming from like a vehicle.
Being reflective.
Mr. Barker, so that's reflecting light, just so we're clear.
Yes, it's light.
Okay.
It's light being reflective.
What time is this light?
3:13 a.m.
Next. We're on, maybe going to slide 40. What are you noting here in slide 40?
It's dark.
Okay. And what is dark?
That area where the light was being reflected.
All right. And at what time is this?
At 3:13 a.m.
Is that noted on your time? Stacy's at 86.
Yes.
Okay. Next, I'm going to talk to you about slide 44. What are you noting here?
At second 32, the light's visible.
Okay. So once again, at second 30, we don't see a light. 31, we do see a light. 32, we see a light here. Fair?
Fair.
Mr. Barkers, what are you noting in slide number 41?
At 3:13 a.m., vehicle moving frame right.
Okay. And on what street is that on?
East Avenue.
This is from camera what?
3 from
What?
714 Fultz Street.
Okay. Next, I'm going to move to slide 43. Can you tell what you're noting here, sir?
Individual visible.
Okay. And where is that individual on this slide?
On Fultz Street.
Okay. And you have noted, how do you have it noted on this slide?
Can you repeat the question?
How do you, on this slide, it's showing this camera view, how do you have the individual noted?
But with an arrow.
Okay. And this is from camera 4 from 714 Fultz?
Yes.
This is slide 43. We're going to move to slide 44. What are you noting here, sir?
Vehicle and individual visible.
Okay. And how do you have those noted on this slide from camera 4?
With the arrows.
Okay. And the individual that you see, where is he located that you have the slide? Just describe it for the record.
On the right side.
The right side of what?
Well, we have an arrow pointing to a vehicle on the left side of this image, and then an individual walking on the right side.
Okay. And he's walking on the right side. What are you referring to?
Frame right.
Okay. And this, can you see my cursor there, sir?
Yes,
And that is what residence?
that is 719 Fultz Street.
Okay. Let me go to the next slide. What are you noting in this slide, sir?
The vehicle backing up,
Okay. What time is this at?
3:14 a.m.
And is that noted on your timeline that you prepared?
Yes,
What are you noting on our next slide here?
the vehicle turning frame left,
And onto what road?
East Avenue.
Okay. What are you noting here at this slide? 3:14 a.m.
Individual and visible.
And what are you noting at this slide?
Vehicle moving frame left.
Okay. And that's on East Avenue again?
Yes,
This is a camera view from camera 3 from 714 Fultz.
yes, 714 Fultz Street.
Okay. What are you noting here on this slide, sir?
Liquid visible.
Where is this camera?
That is on 719 Fultz Street.
Okay. And how do you have the liquid noted here on this slide, sir?
Just with an arrow.
What do you see here next?
Individual or an object.
Okay. What time is this at?
3:15, 12 a.m.
And this is from channel 4 from 719 Fultz.
Yes,
What are you showing here, sir, on this slide?
flames visible.
Okay. What about this slide? Can you tell the jury what you're looking at here?
Individual moving frame left.
This is once again from camera 4 from 714 Fultz.
Yes,
Okay. And back to this slide here, you have the arrow pointed at what?
flames visible.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Now, is this attempt here noted on your timeline?
Yes,
Okay. And as you watch it, where does this individual go looking at this next slide?
towards the left.
Okay. And he's running towards, this would be East Avenue back here, is that right, sir?
Correct, yes.
Okay. You're noting the individual using what?
An arrow.
Okay, the red arrow. All right. At some point, do we lose sight of him when you watch this?
Yes,
Now, Mr. Barkhurst, I'd like to go back to this slide here.
Just like that.
This is going to be slide 50. On slide 50, Mr. Barkhurst, you have an individual holding object. Can you tell what the individual is wearing?
just
Objection.
You can testify as to what you see.
Overruled.
something with long sleeves and a hood on top.
Okay. Can you talk to the jury about, based on your experience as a video analyst, what we have to be cautious of when it comes to colors and different things like that when you're watching a video of this nature?
With infrared, there's what's called an infrared. It's in black and white. There are some times where something dark could appear bright, and something bright could appear dark. It really depends on the fabric.
Okay. All right. Next, Mr. Barkhurst, I'm going to like to reference you back to slide 54 of your narrative presentation. Can you tell the jury what you're looking at in this slide?
Vehicle moving frame left.
Okay. And what do you see here in this photo, sir? Slide 55?
Vehicle moving frame left.
That's at what time?
3:15 a.m.
And this is coming from camera 3 from 714 Fultz.
Yes.
Now, in slide would be 56, can you tell the jury what you have noted here in this slide?
Movement visible.
Where is the movement visible?
Under where the arrow is.
Okay. And in relation to this map that you have behind you, where is that?
That is behind 1374 Hillcrest.
Okay. Our next slide here, sir, what are you noting here with your arrow?
Movement visible.
This slide at 3:20 a.m., can you tell the jury what you note here?
Light visible.
Okay, and where is that light visible at?
Underneath the arrow.
All right, but in what residence?
At 1374 Hillcrest.
Okay, is that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
And what time does the light become visible when you watch the video, sir?
At 3:20.
Okay. Just to go back, did you note on your timeline the movement on the side of this residence?
Yes.
Okay. Our next slide, can you tell the jury what you're noting here at 3:20 a.m.?
A light is no longer visible.
At what residence?
At 1374 Hillcrest.
Okay, and what are we noting here in this slide?
Light is visible.
Okay, and where is that light visible?
At 1374 Hillcrest.
Where at 1374 Hillcrest do you see the light coming from?
At the door.
Okay, and why is that?
Objection.
Overruled as to the form of the question. I mean, sustained as to the form of the question.
Thank you, Judge. What are we seeing here at the door, Mr. Barkers? What are you seeing?
Light.
Okay, and what is the door made of?
I don't know.
Okay. Is this noted on your timeline at 3:20 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. What are we noting here at this next slide at 3:20 a.m.?
Light is no longer visible.
Okay. The light on the door that we previously saw is no longer visible now. Fair.
The light's no longer visible that you
Okay.
saw in the previous frame.
Right. Next at 3:21 a.m., can you tell the jury what we're looking at in this slide?
Light is visible.
And where is that light coming from?
1374 Hillcrest Street.
Is this noted on your timeline?
Yes.
Okay. At 3:21 a.m., we see the light at 1374 Hillcrest. What are you
Right.
noting here on this slide?
Movement visible.
What do you mean by movement visible? What are you trying to describe there?
There's movement in that house.
Okay, so you can see movement going on in the house.
Yes.
And this next slide, what are you noting here, sir?
A light is no longer visible.
Can I lock the judge?
No.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay, that's at 3:21 a.m.
Yes.
Next at this next slide, What are you noting here?
Vehicle moving frame left.
All right. And this is from camera 4 from 714 Fultz.
Yes.
It's going in what direction, sir?
Frame left.
And it's going towards what street?
East Ave.
What about this slide? Tell us what you're noting here.
Vehicle moving frame right.
And this is from what camera and what house?
Camera 4 from 719 Fultz Street.
Okay. What are you showing here at 3:23 a.m.?
Vehicle turning frame right.
This series of slides starts at 3:25 a.m. Mr. Barkhurst, can you tell the first thing that you're noting with, I guess you have marked number 1. What are you noting here?
Vehicle moving frame right.
Okay. And that vehicle is on East Avenue?
Yes.
What are you noting here with slide 2? Or, excuse me, number 2.
A light.
Okay. Light on a vehicle located where?
In between 1374 Hillcrest and 1370 Hillcrest.
Okay. Reflective light.
From IR, yes.
Next, at this slide, what are you noting here, sir, with your arrow?
No light.
All right. And is that noted on your time line at 3:25 a.m.?
Correct.
Okay. What are you noting here at this slide?
Light.
Okay. And what do we start to see here from camera 4 at 714 Fultz?
A vehicle turning onto street.
Okay. This is at what time?
3:25.
All right. And you note this in later activity, but this is noted on your timeline too, right? The vehicle turning on to Fultz.
Yes.
Mr. Barkhurst, tell the jury what you're starting to note here in this next slide.
Number 1 movement visible. Number 2 vehicle backing up.
Okay. And our next slide, tell the jury what you're noting here with your arrow.
Individual moving frame right.
Okay. And this next slide here, what are you showing here, sir, with your arrow?
Individual moving frame right.
Okay. And this arrow of this individual is located between 719 Fultz and that next house next to it. Is that fair, sir?
Yes.
Is that noted on your timeline, him walking down Fultz and going in that area?
Yes.
Next, can you describe what you're showing to the jury here in this slide?
Vehicle lights turning off.
And at this slide, can you tell the jury what you are noting here?
Container being squeezed.
Okay. And what time is that at?
3:26:06 a.m.
Is this noted on your timeline, sir?
Yes.
What are we seeing here in this frame?
Flames visible.
At what time?
3:26:09.
What about this slide? What are you showing?
Container being squeezed.
Okay. What else do you see on the side of the house?
Flames.
This is from 719 Fultz, Channel 4. Is that fair, sir?
Yes.
What are you showing here on our next slide here, sir, from camera 4 of 714 Fultz?
Individual moving frame left.
Okay. This next slide?
Individual moving frame left.
And he's running on Fultz Avenue, or the individual is running on Fultz Avenue.
Correct.
This slide? This next slide?
Individual moving frame left.
And this is at what time?
3:26 a.m.
This is noted on your timeline?
Yes.
What are you noting here in this next slide, sir?
Vehicle turn lights on.
Okay, is this noted on your timeline?
Yes.
What do you notice here, sir, at 3:26 a.m.?
Vehicle turns frame left.
And it's turning onto what road?
East Avenue.
What did you note here at 3:27 a.m., sir?
Vehicle moving frame left.
Okay, so it's on East Avenue.
Yes.
And what do you start to notice here in this next slide?
Movement visible.
Okay, and it's visible on the side of what location?
1374 Hillcrest Street.
At what time?
3:27 a.m.
All right, and that's noted on your timeline.
Yes.
What do we see in this next slide, sir, with your red arrow?
Where the movement is.
Okay. What do we see at this next slide?
Light visible.
Okay, and where is the light visible?
Underneath the arrow.
Okay, of what building?
1374 Hillcrest Street.
Is that noted on your timeline?
Yes.
At what time?
3:28 a.m.
What are you seeing in this next slide here?
Light not visible.
Okay. We're back to, looks like camera 4 from 714 Fultz. Mr. Barkers, can you tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Vehicle moving frame left.
All right. And what time is that at?
3:28 a.m.
What are you noting here at 3:29 a.m., sir?
Vehicle turning frame left.
And is this vehicle, it's turning on what street there?
That will be Hillcrest Street.
Okay. What are you noting here, sir?
Vehicle backing up.
All right. And that's at what time?
3:29 a.m.
Okay. And once again, from camera 4 of 714 Fultz, what are you noting?
Vehicle moving frame right.
It's going back down Fultz towards Height, is that fair?
Yes.
All right, at 3:33 a.m., tell the jury what you're noting here in this slide.
Light visible.
Where?
In between 1374 Hillcrest and 1370 Hillcrest.
Okay, and that's at what second of 3:33 a.m.?
Second 8.
Okay. What do we see at second 9?
Light not visible.
Okay. You're noting that with your arrow again?
Yes.
And at second 10, what do you see again, sir?
Light visible.
Is this tail light darkening and becoming light again noted on your timeline, States Exhibit 87?
Yes.
Okay. Our next slide is back to the camera 4 from 714 Fultz. Can you tell the jury what you're noting here?
Movement visible.
Okay, and where is that movement visible on what street?
Fultz Street.
Okay, and you have it noted with the arrow?
Yes.
Our next slide, what do you see, sir?
Individual moving frame right.
Okay. And the next slide, what are you noting here with your arrow?
Individual moving frame right.
Okay. And he's this individual is once again in the driveway of where?
719 Fultz Street, there's an individual in the driveway.
Okay, so he's in between those two residences, between 719 Fultz and the neighboring residence, the individual.
The individual is, yes.
Okay. This walking down Fultz Street, this individual at 3:33 a.m., is that noted on your timeline?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Is this walking down Fultz, is that individual walking on Fultz noted on your timeline at 3:33 a.m.?
Yes.
Next, sir, I'd like to draw you to this slide. Just so the record's clear, what camera is this coming from?
That's channel 4 from 719 Fultz Street.
And what do you see?
An individual.
Okay, and where is the individual standing?
By the porch.
Okay. Our next slide, can you tell the jury what you're showing here?
Individual next to the flames.
Okay. And this is at what time?
3:34:20 a.m.
Okay. Is that noted on your timeline, State's Exhibit 87?
Yes.
This next slide, can you tell the jury what they're looking at here?
Individual moving frame right.
And this is at what time?
3:34:21 a.m.
When you look at this photograph, sir, what do you notice about the color of this person's pants?
Again, it appears a light tone, but again, this is infrared, so it could be dark.
Okay. Does the tone of the pants appear to be the same as the tone of the shirt that the person's wearing?
I don't see a shirt.
Coat?
It's similar on this image.
Okay.
Again, there's no color. It's a black and white image.
Okay. What does the individual appear to have on his head, from what you can see? And this image here, sir, can you tell the jury what you're noting here?
Individual moving frame right.
Okay. This is at what time?
3:34:22 a.m.
What are you noting here at 3:34 a.m.?
Individual moving frame left
On what street?
on Fultz Street.
Okay. And is this noted on your timeline at 3:34 a.m.?
At what time?
3:34 a.m. Is this noted on your timeline?
Yes.
Our next slide here, sir, can you tell the jury what you're observing here?
Individual moving frame left.
Our next slide here,
Individual moving frame left.
this is from camera 4, 714 Fultz. You have it marked with an arrow, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And our next slide, sir, with this arrow, what are you noting here?
Individual moving frame left.
Okay. Now, as we see from this camera view, camera 4 from channel, or from 714 Fultz, what residence is this right here?
1370 Hillcrest Street.
This individual going behind 1370 Hillcrest, is that noted on your timeline?
Objection.
Yeah, sustained.
Is this movement here that you're noting with the arrow noted on your timeline, sir?
Objection.
Overruled. Remand.
Yes.
What are we showing here, sir?
Individual no longer visible.
Next, I'd like to draw your attention to this slide. It's back to camera 3 from 714 Fultz. What are you showing here?
Light.
Okay. And where is the light coming from?
In between 1374 Hillcrest and 1370 Hillcrest.
Reflective light.
Yes.
That's at what time?
3:34 a.m.
What are we showing here? Then that was, excuse me, second. What second is that in your slide that you noted?
On the timestamp in the video there, it's second 37.
All right, and what do you note here in the next slide, second 38?
There's no light.
Okay. At second 39, what do you see?
Light.
Okay. What are we showing here at 3:40 a.m., Mr. Barkhurst?
Movement.
Okay. When you watch the video, you see movement on the side of the house there that's on fire?
Behind the house.
Yeah, okay. That house is 719 Fultz?
Yes.
Finally, this slide here, 3:42 a.m. Can you tell the jury what you're noting here?
The vehicle is visible in the driveway.
And this is at what time?
3:42 a.m.
Okay. Now back up a little bit on your timeline, State's Exhibit number 87. Were you given information as to the time a 911 call was made?
Yes.
And tell the jury about that.
I was provided a 911 call. There's a time on the call that states the start time.
And what was that time?
3:39 a.m.
What are you noting here at 3:44 a.m., sir?
The fire engine arrival time.
And what are you finally noting here on slide 115, sir?
Alarm monitor panel armed away on 4/18/2016, 6:03 a.m.
Okay. And that's from the alarm.com records?
Correct.
Okay. Now, Mr. Barkhurst, I'd like to show you what you previously spoke about. You conducted a video presentation,
Yes.
and I'd like to bring up State's Exhibit number 66. Sir, I'm here at the title. It looks like the title slide here. Can you describe for the jury what we're looking at?
The beginning of my video presentation.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this is is this a fair, have you watched this video presentation prior to coming into court today, Mr. Barkhurst?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of the video presentation that you prepared for this case and incident on April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
Mr. Barker, so I'm going to pause it right here. Here you have noted no relevant activity observed from approximately 4:18, 16, 12:26 to 12:40 a.m. Do you see this portion of your video presentation?
Yes.
Describe for the jury what you mean when you note no relevant activity.
So that would be like repeating vehicles that could be the same vehicles, movement around where the fire occurred. And
Were you going to say something else, sir?
no, that's it.
Okay.
ladies and gentlemen, before Mr. Riley cross-examines Mr. Barkers, we're going to go ahead and take our afternoon break. Remember the admonition I previously given you about this case. It's important that you be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. This includes family, friends, and the media. You must not post or read anything about this case on the internet or any other electronic device, including cell phones. Any such discussion, if discovered, could lead to a mistrial and would severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss this case with you or in your presence. And again, do not form or express any opinion on this case until it's finally been submitted to you. Pass your packets of 80 through 86 to the end. And those of you in the back, just when you come up, hand them to Mr. Masich. And then you'll leave your notepads upside down on your chairs. And if any of you need additional notepads, let the court know. We'll get you some additional ones. Yellow pads, I mean. All right, so it is 2:25. If you'll be back in the jury room at 2:40, we'll begin the cross-examination.
All right, please.
used one of those.
The Summit County Court of Common Pleas is again in session. The Honorable Christine Croce presiding.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, Mr. Riley, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
Your Honor, good afternoon, Mr. Parkhurst. You know me, you know I'm Scott Riley. We've met before. We've talked on occasion, correct?
Is my mic on? Okay.
All right.
It's directional, so you have to speak right into it.
Okay.
So I think we'll all agree the lawyers at the table aren't as technologically savvy as you are, so I'm going to ask you some questions about your testimony, your evaluations, and some of the scientific forensic things that you've done. And if I get a technical term wrong or am mistaken in my belief, let me know right away, okay?
Okay.
Because I think everybody agrees in terms of forensics, you're smarter at computers than we are. Fair enough?
Okay.
Okay. But first I want to ask you a question. When did you go out to the scene? And when I say the scene, I mean the area of 719 Fultz.
It was in 2017, a few days after the fire in 2017.
All right, so you did not go out there at all for the 2016 incident, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. When you were out there in 2017, how long were you there?
Couple hours, few hours.
And were you there with other law enforcement, other members of the fire marshal's office,
Yes.
other members of the Akron Police Department,
With the fire department.
the Akron Fire Department?
Correct.
All right. How long do you think you spent out at the scene on that day?
Maybe around 2 or 3 hours.
Other than that 2 or 3 hours that you spent in 2017, have you been to that neighborhood since?
Yes.
And when was that?
Maybe around 2 years ago.
And what part of the scene did you go to 2 years ago?
714 Fultz and also Fultz Street.
All right, so I believe we have marked as this exhibit here is State's Exhibit number 13. You recognize that map, correct? I should say, do you recognize that map?
Is it a zoomed in version of the Google Earth?
Well, I'm just asking you to recognize the neighborhood. I don't know where it was taken. I didn't make it. This is Mr. D'Angelo's exhibit, but
Okay, yes.
let me ask you this. Maybe easy. You see here that this is Fultz Street, correct?
Correct.
And this is Hillcrest, correct?
Correct.
And Height Street runs up and down here. I believe that's in a north-south fashion, correct?
Correct.
And then Russell Avenue runs along here, correct?
Correct.
And the part that we don't see is where Russell Avenue meets East Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And you know that Russell Avenue does, in fact, continue off the page here and intersects with East Avenue, correct?
I'd have to look at a wider shot, but it's cut off there.
Right. From your recollection of being at the scene, do you have any recollection that East Avenue does, in fact, intersect with Russell Avenue?
Okay. So you can tell them it exists.
Right.
So for the record, the state of Ohio is stipulating that Russell Avenue and East Avenue connect at a point in the lower left-hand portion of State's Exhibit 13, which is not depicted on the map. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We can agree on that, right?
Okay, I understand, yes.
All right. So when you were out at the scene, where did you direct your activities? Just to 714 Fultz?
Yes, and also on the side of a 1370. I was on the street there, and I saw where 719 Fultz Street was.
All right. So other than walking the neighborhood and making observations, did you do anything else? In other words, did you take any pictures? Did you take any video? Did you collect any samples? Anything like that?
I took photos.
We talk about you testified regarding a truck that you made observations of going up and down Fultz Avenue. You recall that testimony, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you said at one point in time, the vehicle was traveling up Fultz towards East Avenue, correct?
Correct.
And then at other times, the vehicle was heading down Fultz Avenue towards Height, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me, wouldn't you, that a vehicle that was on Height and Fultz, right at the bend there, could travel up to East Avenue without going down Fultz Street, correct?
Correct.
It could drive down Height to Russell, up Russell to East Avenue, and then East Avenue could turn right, could turn left, correct?
Correct.
And the video that you made mention of wouldn't have covered any of that, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So it's fair to say that a vehicle that was at the intersection of Fultz and Height could proceed just as easily up Russell Avenue to East Avenue as it could up Fultz to East Avenue, correct?
Calls for speculation. Sustained.
If a vehicle were to travel from Fultz to Height to Russell, the videos that you made reference to would not have captured that activity, correct?
Correct.
When did you go to the Circle K that was mentioned?
I did not go to the Circle K.
All right, so you've never been to the Circle K.
I've never been to the Circle K.
Would you agree with me that through the course of your investigation in this matter, you have never examined a DVR hard drive or DVR recording device that was located at 730 Fultz Street?
Can you give me the address again, please?
730 Fultz.
No.
And when it comes to 714 Fultz, at least in 2016, you never examined a hard drive to that machine either, correct?
Correct.
I believe you stated that you utilized 3 CDs or 3 discs of information, correct?
Correct.
And are you aware that the CDs were copied from a flash drive, which was copied from a hard drive?
No.
All right. So if Detective Hall had testified previously that she downloaded from the hard drive at 714 Fultz data and then transferred that data from a flash drive to a CD, you did not know that, correct?
Correct.
You did examine the hard drive, though, of the DVR unit from 719 Fultz, correct?
Correct.
And in that examination, would you agree with me that the first images that you found on that DVR went back to October of 2015.
It was around that. It's several months prior.
Again, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. You and I had an occasion a couple hours ago to talk about a DVR examiner report. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that is the report that your computer program generates when you're downloading the information from the DVR itself, correct?
Correct.
And there was some confusion, and you helped me clear it up. There were two reports that were done, at least on the DVR at 719 Fultz, correct?
Correct.
And one of the reports, although both reports were generated at the same time and had different report numbers, one of the reports had an error on it, correct?
Correct.
And I think you and I figured out that it just didn't download the thumbnails of the video, correct?
That's why I believe that error is, yes.
Okay. And I'm just going to show you for your recollection to refresh it if you could. Copy the DVR export report that we talked about, correct?
Correct.
And I believe at the bottom right side it talks about earliest clip, correct?
Correct.
And the earliest clip that was discovered on that DVR was from October 3rd of 2015, correct?
Correct.
And the latest clip was April 18th of 2016, correct?
Correct.
When you began your examination of the CDs that were the copies of the copy of the hard drive from 714 Fultz, if I'm reading your report correctly, you established a hash value for those videos, correct?
Correct.
When you got those CDs and the files that contain the videos, it did not come with a hash value, correct?
Correct.
And for the jury, and correct me if I'm wrong, a hash value is sort of the DNA of a video file, correct?
Yes, I'd like to refer to it as a fingerprint for a digital file.
And it's important to have a hash value because you know that the copy is an exact copy of the original, correct?
Correct.
And without the hash value, there's no way to determine if in fact the copy is an exact copy, correct?
If you hash the thumb drive, the files on the thumb drive, and then hash the files on the disk, you could find out.
But without that, you couldn't, correct?
Correct.
Will you agree with me that when you are making a copy, sometimes data is left off that copy, correct?
It can happen, yes.
And I think you and I first met a couple years ago in the prosecutor's office with an external hard drive, and I couldn't get some files to work. Do you recall that? We met in Mr. D'Angelo's office?
Yes.
And my notes reflect that the conversation we had is one of the files on the hard drive was corrupted. Do you remember that?
There was issues playing it back.
And so we got a second hard drive. Is that fair?
Fair, yes.
Okay. A mirror image of a hard drive, I believe you call it a forensic copy, correct?
Correct.
And that is, well, it's what it is. It's you make a complete copy of the actual hard drive, correct?
Correct.
And then you, as a forensic analyst, work off of that forensic image, not the original, correct?
Correct.
Because every time you go to operate the original, something on the hard drive can change, correct?
If it's in the video recorder, yes.
Because digital recordings, computer language, it's nothing but a bunch of ones and zeros, correct?
Yes.
All right. 35. Mr. Barkhurst, I'm going to show you Exhibit 35 for a minute. You previously identified that. Do you recall that?
Yes.
That appears to be a sealed envelope, and your initials don't appear to be on it anywhere. How do we know that that's exactly what you looked at?
We can open it up and see if my initials are on the disc.
Okay. And you would put them on, actually on the desk?
Yes, typically, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have, Judge.
Any redirect, Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes, I'll have 1 minute. Mr. Barkhurst, I just have a couple of questions. These boards that are in front of you, did you have a chance to look at these boards? I think they're big poster boards. They're marked for identification purposes, States Exhibit 80 through 87.
Yes.
Okay. And are these identical copies to the timeline that you had in this packet here?
Yes.
Mr. Riley asked you about meeting in my office, and you provided later provided a hard drive copy or a terabyte hard drive copy of all the video in this case. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And you provided Mr. Riley with one of those?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Riley had asked you about how you don't use the original. Traditionally, you'll analyze the copies or download from the original. Is that fair?
What's submitted to us.
Submitted to you. Okay. And although you may copy something or download something from, I don't know, a burnt out DVR system, can you still analyze those particular files?
Yes.
Even though they're copied from the original?
Yes.
The changes that you may see here or there, when you from the copy, how significant are they?
Are you referring to a copy from the USB drive to the CDs?
Sure.
I've never seen the video off the USB drive.
Okay. When you just generally copy something from one medium to the next, can you see changes?
Typically, just from copying, unless there's an issue with the copying or computer, the copies typically come out, from my experience, correct.
Okay. I have 1 minute, Judge. Judge, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, all right, Mr. Parker, that concludes your testimony for today. My understanding is you are coming back in a couple, probably next week, I believe. So I will advise you that you're not to talk with anyone about the status of your testimony here today. If you meet with the prosecutors in anticipation of your testimony going forward, that's fine, but no discussion about what you've testified so far to. Understand?
I understand.
Thank you. You're excused. And then you could call your next witness, please.
Judge, can we go to the sidebar real quick?
Sure.
thanks. Thank you, Joe. I think all of us.
No.
Okay, all right, David, no video of this detective. Who can, oh, I don't know, I didn't ask him. Always, or he's usually listening, so if he's listening, find out if he got your audio visual of it. Ken? He's got to put his jacket. He's got to put his jacket on. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Yes,
Thank you, Judge.
sure. Do you need a marker too?
Yes, please.
I have those two.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. You might as well bring it in here while we're waiting. Or never mind.
Oh, thank you. That's all I left up there.
Yep, you're right there. All right, put your stuff down and then, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Go ahead and have a seat. Once you're seated and comfortable, please remove your mask, keep your voice up, speak into the microphone, and you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Tanisha Stewart, Tanisha Ann Stewart, Stewart.
And where are you currently employed, Ms. Stewart?
If I still have a job with them, with the Cleveland Clinic Rehabilitation Hospital,
What do you do for them?
registered nurse.
Okay. And at some point, were you employed by the Akron Police Department?
Yes.
And in what capacity?
Finally, as a detective.
And for how long? Were you a police officer?
I was a police officer. I retired at 25 years.
25 years. Okay. And then you became a nurse.
Yes.
How long have you been a nurse?
It's only been about a year.
Okay. When did you officially retire from the Akron Police Department?
November 30th, 2019.
Were all your years as a police officer with the Akron Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. Now, before you joined the Akron Police Department, did you serve in the armed forces?
In the U.S. Army, yes.
And how long?
4 years.
Detective Stewart, when you were employed with the Akron Police Department, can you tell the jury what divisions you were assigned to as a police officer?
Most of my time was in the patrol division. And during that time in the patrol division, I also had dual duties with the honor guard for a stint, a hostage negotiator, crisis intervention, a mentoring program, and then I went last, I don't know, 7, 8 years up to the Detective Bureau. Part of that time was in major crimes or crimes against persons, and the other part, while I was finishing nursing school, was in property crimes.
What were your duties in the Crimes Against Persons unit?
Crimes against persons. You investigate any crime against a person. Rape, robbery, felonious assault, murder.
What type of training did you undergo as a police officer that enabled you to work in that division of the Akron Police Department?
Well, the training experience that you have in patrol, because patrol gets to every call first. Also, I got a certification through OPATA as a certified criminal investigator, and then plenty of on-the-job training with my peers and supervisors.
Detective Stewart, I'd like to draw your attention to April 18th of 2016. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
Were you working in your capacity as a detective in the Crimes Against Persons unit of the Akron Police Department on that date?
Yes.
And what shift were you working?
Midnights.
And what's midnight? What's the midnight shift?
Roughly, was it 10:30 to 6:30 or 7 to 11, somewhere in there?
Okay. Did you have a partner, or did you work with anyone when you
The
worked
whole
there?
team worked cohesively as a unit.
How many people were part of the team?
There were about, I would say, six detectives, supervisor, a couple of sergeants, our lieutenant.
All worked together to
Yes.
assist when something happened? Okay. Now, Detective Stewart, did you have a chance to respond to Fultz Avenue in the city of Akron on April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what address you responded to?
There was a fire call that was dispatched out at 719 Fultz,
All right, and that's located in what city, county, and state?
Akron, Ohio, Summit County.
All right. You said there was a fire reported there. Tell the jury why you had to respond.
It was later discovered or learned that there were potential victims that had died in that fire.
What time did you arrive there at 719 Fultz or that neighborhood, if you recall?
I would have to look at my report for that, but it would have been in that 4 o'clock in the morning hour. But I would need to refer to our report for the exact time.
Okay. When you arrived, can you tell the jury what the first thing you did, or what was the first thing you observed?
And this is like 6 years ago. There were already a plethora of personnel out there, fire and police, potential witnesses that were out there. And so I was directed to different people who may have been good potential witnesses, ear or eye witnesses to speak to first.
Who was giving you that information as to where to go and who to speak with?
Some from patrol, supervisors, but also my own direct supervisor, Sergeant Lickey.
Okay. And so Sergeant Lickey, was he there with you?
Yes, he was also on the scene.
All right. And next to you, you have that computer screen. Do you see that, ma'am?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as previously identified and marked as State's Exhibit number 32. Do you see that photograph of that individual there, sir or ma'am?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know who that individual is?
I believe that is Nicholas Costa.
All right. And did you speak with him on that date?
I did.
Okay. And do you know where it was that he lived?
He lived directly next door. If you're looking at 719, he was directly to the left of that, which will be west, I believe.
Okay.
You want it? May I take a?
Sure.
Ma'am, I'm going to show you two photographs marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 33 and 34. Can you please take a minute to look through those two photographs? You're done?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to put them on the document camera. State's Exhibit number 33, Detective Stewart. Do you see an individual there in that photograph marked State's Exhibit 33?
Yes.
And then State's Exhibit 34, do you see that another? Do you see an individual in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to identify during the course of your investigation who that was?
That's who I know to be the neighbor, Mr. Costas.
Okay. At some point, did you speak with a man by the name of Thomas Hughley?
Yes.
All right. And I'm showing on the document camera what photograph that's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit 24. Do you recognize that individual?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury who that is?
That was one of the basement tenants, Mr. Hughley.
Okay. And where did you speak with him at?
I spoke with him initially in the fire rig, the ambulance rig.
Okay. And what was he doing in the ambulance?
He had been rendered aid, first of all, because he had taken a little bit of smoke. And so once they rendered him, safe enough to speak to and stable, then I interviewed him.
Okay. And without telling us what he said, did he talk to you about what he saw, what he remembered there that night?
Yes.
All right. And did he, without telling us what he said, did he talk to you about the relationships of the parties of different people in the neighborhood and people at 719 Fultz?
Yes.
Did you talk to him about his relationship with the defendant, Stanley Ford?
Yes.
Now, after you spoke with, do you know where Mr. Hughley is now?
It's my understanding he's deceased.
At some point, did you go to 714 Fultz?
Yes.
And do you know who lived at 714 Fultz?
He was referred to as two things. Informally as Chucky Poole by a couple of people, but I know him as Chester Williams.
Okay. I'm showing on the document camera an exhibit that has previously been marked and identified as States Exhibit 25. Do you recognize that individual, ma'am?
Yes, that's Mr. Chester.
Okay, that's Mr. Chester Williams.
Yes.
And where did you speak with him?
In his house.
And why were you speaking with Mr. Williams in his house?
I was alerted to the fact that he had surveillance camera
Okay, he had a surveillance camera on his house.
on his house.
Okay. And when you spoke with him, can you describe his demeanor for the jury?
Concerned and cautious.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
He was concerned about whether we would be seen talking to other neighbors because he didn't want any potential retaliation, for talking to the police.
Okay. Did you, without telling us what he said, did you speak with him about the dynamics and the relationship between the neighbors in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Did you speak with him specifically about the folks at 719 Fultz and their relationship with the defendant, Stanley Ford?
Yes.
Now, Detective Stewart, that video at 714 Fultz, did you have a chance to view it right then and there, or tell us about that?
No, I did not get a chance to view any video right then or there from anywhere. I got that later.
Okay. You viewed that video later on?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a chance to go look for other video in other locations in and around the neighborhood?
Yes.
Tell the jury where you went.
Well, the immediate houses that were around on Fultz and also Hillcrest. Also, there were businesses on East Avenue. So I believe we checked the daycare. They didn't have any video that depicted out front. A couple of churches, Fred's Diner. There was a lawnmower shop over there on East Avenue somewhere. There was a charities organization, and then Circle K. Off the top of my head, that's what I remember.
By Fred's Diner, are you referring to Bob's Hamburg?
Might be. Yes, I am.
Fred's Diner's on the other side of
Now,
Akron.
you're right. They are over on home. You are right. They make a mean omelet.
Okay.
They do.
All right, Detective Stewart, I'd like to talk to you now about some witnesses that you had a chance to interview. How many witnesses approximately would you say you interviewed during the course of your investigation into this fire?
Approximately, a dozen.
Okay. And did you speak to a man by the name of Ronald Garrett?
Yes.
And where did you learn that he lived?
He too was a tenant in the basement with Mr. Hughley
Okay.
at 719 Fultz.
All right. Do you know if he had items in the basement there?
Yes.
And how was he, what was his demeanor when you spoke with him?
I couldn't quite get a grasp on him.
Why do you say that?
In my professional opinion, it seemed that there were things that were being omitted or left out,
Okay.
or maybe a bit of evasiveness.
And what was his emotional state when you spoke with him?
He was upset.
And what do you mean by upset?
I believe at one point in the interview, when he was recalling some of Lindell and his, childhood and past memories, he was, moved to tears. But yeah, he had a roller coaster of emotions.
Did you notice any noticeable disabilities on him?
Not noticeable, but he told me he was legally blind.
Okay. Did you speak to a man by Gregory Lewis?
Yes.
Who's Gregory Lewis?
The deceased Lindell Lewis's brother.
All right. Is Mr. Lewis still alive? Do you know that?
I believe he's also deceased.
Did you speak with a witness by the name of Tiffany Gary?
Yes.
And what was her relationship to your investigation in this case?
She was a neighbor, and she afforded a little background information on neighborhood dynamics.
Okay. She was there at the scene that night too. Is that fair?
That morning,
Yes.
yes, I believe I interviewed her as well in that ambulance rig.
Did you speak with an individual by the name of Jonald McLemore?
Yes.
And who is Jonald McLemore?
He was referred to as John McLemore or Little Mac. He was a previous tenant and longtime friend of the deceased.
Okay. And during your investigation of him, did you have some suspicions about Mr. McLemore?
Yes.
Tell the jury why.
It was, I believe it was the brother and also another witness that I spoke to that alerted me to him possibly setting a van of Lindell's on fire in the past and was upset about some money.
Okay. And did you speak with him about those things?
Yes.
So you learned that he had some issues with Mr. Lewis, Lindell Lewis.
Yes.
Did you know, were you able to learn during the course of your investigation what the status of their relationship was at the time of the fire or right around that time period?
At the time of the fire, it was understood that they were amicable.
Judge, can we approach?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. D'Angelo, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Miss, or Detective Stewart, did you speak with a lady by the name of Francine Lewis?
Yes.
And what was her relationship to Lindell Lewis?
His ex-wife.
Okay. Did you speak with a individual by the name of William Pryor?
Yes.
And what was his relationship with Francine Lewis?
That was her longtime boyfriend.
Okay. Did you know if Francine Lewis was still married to Lindell Lewis?
They were divorced.
Okay. Now, at this point in your investigation, after you had spoken to all these witnesses at the scene and then all these, sort of background witnesses, who did you want to speak with next?
Well, I want to speak to everyone.
Yeah.
But including on that day, if we're still talking about that day, before I left that scene, I spoke to Mr. Ford.
Okay. And do you see Mr. Ford in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to him and describe what he's wearing for the record, please?
He is over to my right with, I believe it's a tan long sleeve shirt, pants, black shoes, and a face mask.
And that was based on information that you had obtained from all these witnesses that led you to want to speak with him?
Yeah, while I was out there initially, his name came up a few times.
Okay. Now, you said, how many times did you spoke to him that night or roughly that morning?
I spoke to him that morning.
On
Yes.
April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
And then did you speak to him again another time?
Yes.
And when was that?
Spoke to him a couple of times. I believe it was the same evening I came back and circled back around. But then I did have a telephone conversation with him that's also articulated in my report. And I believe that was a couple of months later.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, I'm going to play for you just the beginning portions of what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 103.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you start to listen to these exhibits, I want to explain to you, I have made some rulings regarding some things that were contained in those exhibits, maybe one or two of them. If there's a pause or it appears that maybe something was cut out, it's because I've ruled that part of it inadmissible. So I don't want you to think that anybody has tampered with these statements. It was just based on a previous ruling that I made concerning those tapes and what I deemed admissible. Understand? Yes? By raise of hand? Thank you. Okay, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Oh, hold on. Detective Stewart, after listening to those few seconds of State's Exhibit 103, do you hear any voices you recognize?
My own.
Okay. And where was it that you, is this a recording of the interview that you conducted with the defendant
Yes.
on April 18th of 2016?
Yes.
And where did you conduct this interview?
At his side door of his residence.
And what residence was that?
1370 Hillcrest at Fultz.
There appears to be a lot of background noise. Tell the jury what that's from.
Emergency vehicles.
Okay. Fire trucks, things like that.
Yes.
Okay. And initially, do you continue to speak with him at the side door?
Yes.
Tell the jury why.
that's where he wanted to speak. He didn't want to go in or come out. So he
Okay.
wanted to speak there, and we did.
All right.
Okay. So we look yeah, Stanley Ford. And you said you were telling me something about some metaphors that, you know.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it's just a tell a lot of people, I didn't know, and I was done. I think like 1 in the morning. But other people, we saw the driving the morning, turning the girl off. I was 1 in the morning, I don't know her name.
How long was that?
Probably a couple weeks ago.
That you know before, you know.
I don't know what she was saying over here, but I never, like I said, I never feel any with it, you know. We try not to bother anybody. There's a lot of people up here, they act like they don't want to be bothered, so, you know, I just feel I fall right in the group, not to be bothered with.
How long did you live here?
I've been up here about 30 years.
Okay. Yeah. Did you ever have any problems with what you did? Any arguments or anything?
Well, sometimes they go to cut my grass, right? You know, they want to drink, they want to eat one do time, I guess. But, I just think we get a little something that's not even on there, like you understand shit. Yeah, you know. So, sometimes it don't go too well, you know. It's like I got a neighbor down there, Lord Smarts. He said, you don't need grass, come up here. You want to cut your grass, and you tell them not to get mad. I said, no, something like that, it's crazy, man. So, I just went out about it, I don't want no trouble. You know, I think that people in the regional got pulled and parked in my driveway. I heard another boom. And they were having a party, I called the police, but by the time the police got here, it was like 3 in the morning. It's crazy, man.
What kind of stuff did you realize something was wrong?
Oh, I just saw it. I mean, man, I know what's going on. You know, like, I do not feel it.
Well, what you saw from the place, I mean, what had happened last night working for you?
Well, I was actually I was kind of like, I was working out and I was kind of big a little bit. And so my wife was mad, you know, like, well, like sort of working out. We try not to do nothing.
Right, but I mean, I got it.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to walk you through what happened.
So, her, you know, really cool.
Well, the first thing you told me, oh, that dude, I saw you guys out here. I was intimidated. I didn't want to come out.
What changed before we got here?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see anything before. I didn't see anything.
Did you hear anything?
Well, I heard some stuff maybe going on. Like, I heard it going on.
Now, what part of this side?
Yeah, I'm upstairs.
On this
Yeah,
side?
I'm on the other side.
This side.
So the window, we had the window coming out, but
Now, who are you with your wife?
my wife came to bed early in the morning.
And what she said?
But, you know, what's going on across the street? She always encouraged me to, not even, bother them. She said, because they're bad people, you know, and God take care of them, you know, if they're religious, you know, the house is going. I go over there sometimes, just to talk to George sometimes, you know. But, you know, I refrain back, so I ain't trying to get in trouble, you know, I started to like all of it. I got to make sure, you know. I got one that's 9 and every 10, and I got one that's 3 and every 4.
Oh, yeah, you saw that.
Yeah. So, you know, I just try to get in and do nothing. And now I got girls.
When you talk to your wife, she's the first one to learn anything about her.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what's the time I got her. I got your card.
But what's the number I can call her?
She at work. You can call on I gotta get her work. I'm gonna work on her.
Oh, you have a cell?
Huh?
She has a cell phone?
Yeah, it's 330 310 246.
310-246.
Yeah.
Where does she work at?
She worked at Apex Gas in Cleveland. Yeah. I told her she was coming over there something, you know.
And so you said she said, hey, something going on over there.
Something like that, yeah.
Get up.
No, I didn't get up because we was at the park. We was at the park up there at, what's that park up there by Walden?
Yeah, I know.
We was at that park.
Arson.
Huh? Is that the name of it? I went down over there. We was up there with the girls all day, running up around, getting them tired.
So when she said that, were you in the house when she told you that?
We was upstairs.
Okay. I mean, were you in the bathroom, bedroom, hall? And then, so you said you didn't get up when she told you that. Did she want to look out?
I really don't know because we was mean,
You just seem awful nervous for, I was talking to you.
I'm not nervous. I'm probably I mean, you know, take that way after talking to you. I mean, I'm like, you know,
I'm just trying to say we're talking to everybody.
I mean, she told me that. She told me that. I'm not nervous. I'm answering the best I can. I mean, I don't even know the right answer.
No, I'm just saying you just seem a little nervous. I just want to make sure you understood. But we're talking to everybody. I'm not saying you out.
I'm not nervous. I'm talking to you.
I'm just trying to make you comfortable, sir. Let you know
Yeah, she mentioned that, but I don't really got the chair maybe like I did. You understand? I don't want that either.
No, I didn't know.
what I'm saying?
I'm asking everybody like people like, who is not asking for irrigation?
Who's like the curious?
But like you ask everybody like, you know, if you go out like you said he came out, his wife and the other person they came out, somebody else came down, you gotta see what they saw.
Oh, yeah, you know, that's what people come out. You know?
talk to everybody.
Some people look out, some people come
Yeah,
out.
but I'm the type of person, I don't come out because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what people's into.
You don't look out.
I looked out later on, I saw you guys out here. Yeah.
Now, did your wife look out? Well,
I don't even know if she looked out or not. I don't know if she looked out.
She left the bedroom when you were.
Oh, but she has to get up early in the morning to get shower and then.
So we're not understanding.
I mean, I can't answer all the questions like you want me to. I wish I could. I wish I had all the answers. And I wish I would have saw someone over there. But I mean, that's devastation. I wish that on anyone.
Now, who do you think over here might have a problem with somebody else? What you think that's a problem?
I don't know, well, you know, the guys, man, they probably some everybody. I don't know the name. They been having stuff running with some everybody.
Now, which ones have to run?
That whole house, man, that's all this is, why they was out here, this guy came up on the history, and, he told one of them guys, he said, if you turn, I'm not around no more like that. He took off running. That was time. So, I don't, man, listen.
They probably saw her.
Yeah, we saw him running. We saw him running up there. Now, the dude was chasing. Look, I don't know. Listen, like I said, I don't know what they had to do with him. But once I sit here and watch them, how they perform in the neighborhood, I didn't want to socialize with them. You know what I'm saying? And I just got to see you like that. I did. I don't trust people, man. You know, I don't trust people anymore, you know?
Now, they said his car got set on fire or something.
Oh, at that time, at that time, I think when that happened, he was, you guys ever heard of Lorenzo? He used to walk around there, breaking in garages, home, stealing stuff. He's been in and out of jail, and they just let him go, look, it's like petty stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody got to know him. Everybody downtown know him. So Lorenzo used to bring a lot of stuff. They used to buy a lot of stuff, I know that for a fact. You know, we used to sit outside. So I told my wife, I said, I'm trying to sit outside and see what's going on. You know, I got tired of it, but I'm not hesitating. You know, you try to feel me. Well, sometimes you can't always, you know, sometimes you can listen to it, sometimes you can't always get and see what's going on all the time. It's just like I your car, that type of thing, like the person, I do all the time. I don't know if I've been married. I don't know if I've been looking at that like that. You know what I'm saying? But when I got married, I got 2 kids. You know, you gotta sacrifice yourself to take care of your kids. That's what I'm doing now. I ain't trying to bother nobody. Yeah, that's the first time I've been married in my life. Yeah, but it's good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no arguments, no domestic violence, no police calls. It's beautiful, you know what I mean? If I'd have known that was, if I could have had a good woman when I was younger, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, well, yeah. You know, don't give that to you. You know what I'm saying?
Got anything else you need to go on?
No,
Anything out here, like any other neighborhood dynamics?
no, when I see, I'm gonna tell you something about this. When I see stuff going on over there, I call the police. Sometimes they don't want you to call 911. And sometimes you need to call 911. You know what I mean? Just like that house over there. They was pulling us, not me, I know some other people are getting in the car. They was pulling us out. I just called the police because that was an emergency. Because sometimes you must have to call 911 for the wrong thing.
Hey, you gonna get it.
That's the crazy part. But see, that's like a robbery to me. You know, they robbing the house. You know what I mean? So it should have been 911. I don't know if they're okay. Crazy stuff going on. A lot of people up here know. You know, they're back. They bring a lot. Smoking a lot of weed. You know, so it's kind of hard. Look at it, you know. I mean, I was off for drugs. I just bought it. I don't give a thing. Oh, yeah, I got the number. Yeah.
I'm trying to contact your wife. If I can't get her on the phone, just call me back. I think I'll talk to her. I just like to get everything done.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, I was trying to help you guys money because they want to come down. I don't want to stay concerned.
Anything you think under her house is negative, I would love to do.
Oh, okay, no doubt. One of the guys supposed to be together with them. Told me I was harassing them. You know what this ball is over there. Yeah, it's actually let me know. You know, to my daughter in school. He said, he was harassing them. I said, dude. He said, me out. I was harassing them.
You think it's harassment today or before?
I said, he said, it's not like it's some girls that was there. I don't even know them like that.
They said you harassed them?
Yeah,
What's the first that?
I don't know. I didn't see that debate with nobody because I don't see no reason to debate that. For what? I know.
I mean, have you guys had something?
No, I didn't have no harassment.
Have you ever had work or something?
I never had no words like that.
No work or argument?
Well, yeah, what time did I get it?
How long was that?
That was like 22.
So I'm saying nothing here this year.
No, I don't bother to listen. It's scared. I mean, they used to, I could be outside, and I like to read.
Yeah.
I could sit out here and still walk up the street. And they'll wait. If you don't wait, you look back. People don't wait.
Right.
I never wait because I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to associate with you.
Right.
You know, some people get offended with that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't get offended with that. If I saw you in there, you know, way back, I would never wait back to you. That's why, you know what I'm saying? That means you don't want me to wait back. You don't want to be bothered. Respect. No, that's respect.
Yeah.
Respect that. Yeah.
Somehow. So, yeah, just to be clear, you said you ain't had nothing to do with anything else. It's 2010.
I ain't got nothing to do with this.
All right. Okay.
Thank you. Don't point up here.
Thank you so much.
I tried to. Take care now.
All right, it worked out, you said. All right. I'm gonna get up on you one.
Now, Detective Stewart, that interview was difficult to hear because of the engines in the back. So at one point, we hear Sergeant Litke. Who was with you when you conducted this interview?
Sergeant Scott Lickey.
Okay. He mentions something about the defendant's demeanor. Did you notice anything about the defendant's demeanor when you spoke with him?
I did.
And what did you notice?
He seemed nervous.
Okay. And at one point in the interview, he says that there was a man that said that he was harassing him, that the defendant was harassing the man. Do you recall that part of the interview?
Yes.
Do you recall the physical description that he gave of that man?
Bald head guy.
Do you know the victim in this case, Lindell Lewis?
Yes.
Do you know if he had any hair?
He was, at the time that he died, he was bald head.
Detective Stewart, you said you interviewed the defendant a second time, this time by phone?
Yes.
All right. And that phone call was recorded?
Yes.
I'm going to play, Judge, just the beginning portions of State's Exhibit 104A for the jury.
What's up?
Oh, what is that, Mr. Ford?
Detective Stewart, do you recognize the voices there on this call?
Yes.
All right. And who are they and what is this call here?
My own voice and Mr. Ford.
Okay, so this is the recorded call?
Yes.
Do you know when you made that call? If you don't, that's okay.
I believe it was July of 2016.
Okay.
But I would have to double check my report.
All right.
Yeah, I was calling to follow up with you about the fire across the street. A couple of things. Well, one major thing is, keeps coming up. Because of the tumultuous history that, you and the people in Adele's house had, everybody is thinking you, right?
I don't know. I never heard that, Tanisha.
Oh, yeah, that's the running thing. So much so that I'm concerned that, people may want to take things into their own hands.
Tanisha, listen to me once again. I do not mess with these people up here. Them guys try to get me to go and engage with them. Them guys was nasty. They had prostitutes in and out all night. They was dealing with homosexuality.
Where you get that from?
What you mean where I get it from? I think on the porch. That's why they mess with them.
You said it was doing
They're doing everything going over there. I mean, the way you get the flip burner, y'all like y'all have some skills. I thought that would just take me and lock me up. Y'all have me checked up, man.
What was that?
Yeah, I mean, that's some serious stuff. You ain't getting away with that information. No, I'm trying to be good and do good.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
when did we have you checked up?
I mean, you were the one that, you were the one. It's okay. But anyway, no,
I only talked to you at your side door.
I know, it's okay.
We didn't take you anywhere. You weren't in any car. You weren't.
I know.
We talked to you at your side door.
Them people was just bad people. I didn't do nothing to them people. Them people were just mean. I'm listening here. When they moved up here to Asia, they stole everything that wasn't voted down. They stole everything from people. Everything.
Well, let me ask you this, because you already told me that you were at home that night, right?
All right, yeah.
But like I said, I not that I don't believe you, but this is the problem that I have, is that people around there in the family only know of you guys arguments and stuff back and forth. That's all they know.
Argument. Why did I know argument? I just,
Somebody said that you were arguing with Jeannie that Sunday.
I didn't argue with no Jimmy.
That's what everybody's saying. If you and Jeannie were arguing outside, and
No, I didn't argue with Jimmy. I don't even know her. I mean, she just brought me to understand. She was married to people down there in West-Salem. I thought I was back at, I was in West-Salem some years back. I heard her talk. I thought I was down there with James Brown's property. You know what I mean?
What? Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious. I'm serious.
I mean, like, what about her had you feeling that way?
What did you drink? On the weekend, they get drunk. They'll get drunk. You can't understand what I'm saying. I would tell my wife, did you hear what she said? I heard that they just
I
drunk.
mean, but did they do anything different from any other person that's drunk?
Yeah, well, just a bunch of people over there. This one guy was over there named Rick. I guess when Tommy came up there, I think Lindell put him in charge. They get in an argument. Tommy called him all kind of fast. And I said, this is crazy. I said, we ain't never expressed up in this neighborhood. Because this is like
you still do that with them?
No, I wish I could, but it was weak.
When'd you stop?
I believe let's see what year was that. I can't forget what this year is, you know what I mean? Hey, what year was that? I quit with the DNC. I probably gone to 2010, somewhere around there.
Is it 2010?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, it's a good group of people. It was like my family, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it was real good people, man. After a while, you know?
Well, Mr. Ford, this is my concern. Is that how to make people believe that it wasn't you.
I'm telling you, you listen to me. You either take my word or you don't. That's all I can tell you. You're accusing me of doing the bad, but I didn't do that.
Right.
You know, I didn't mess with them people. I mean, I don't know why they involved me. You know?
Look, I didn't hear anybody accuse you of burning up the van. I think they knew who burned up the van. It was somebody else. So no, you're not the only person, but it's just that because your name, you know, you and the tenants, you know, whether somebody comes and breaks something or try to break your house, and then they had some windows broken, and they had, you know, all they know, and it wasn't just them saying that. Some of the neighbors around there are saying that, hey, you know, we just know that they, you know, the guy across the street and Lindell's tenants didn't get along, and that's what everybody in the neighborhood is saying. Everybody's bringing that up.
No, you know, you said these people involved with me, and you kind of like believe in them.
No, let me say again.
Yeah.
It's not that I believe them, it's what I can tell them to make them believe that it wasn't you.
Oh.
It's not that I believe them. What I'm saying is, if your name keeps coming up and they're believing, and I haven't arrested anyone else. So all people know is for some years you guys weren't the best of friends.
No.
So if you guys weren't the best of friends.
The thing about we were friends, I never knew them, so we could have never been friends. And I didn't care for none of them, right? So I would have never been their friends, you know?
Right. And that's
I don't trust people that much anymore, so I would have never been their friends because of the little standards that I have now. No, they used to get pissed off because I wouldn't let them come out the grass. But so they would buy stuff to drink and smoke and get smoke crack and stuff. That's all that was about, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying that what people perceive. I'm not saying what it was. I'm saying
They always perceive that because it's like this, Tanisha. When you don't tell people, you know, about your daily life, what you're doing in your life, people don't like that. They get mad at you.
Well, like I said, I mean, you know, people, what they saw, you know, was arguments between the two of you. That's what gave me. Let's slow it down for a second.
Yeah.
Everybody.
One guy on the street, he wanted to see how long my pants were.
Okay, well, let me say this.
Yeah, kids, you know, I'm doing a lot of good things with them too. You know, they're doing a lot of things for us, and you know, I just do a lot of stuff, you know, and yeah, but I didn't have anything to do with that, and I don't even know why the neighbors would tell that kind of policy on me, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's just people's perception.
Oh, yeah.
You guys just have bad relationships.
They should have told you the truth, that, you don't bother nobody, that's what they should have told you. That guy right there.
They can't help how they see it.
Well,
So, you know,
I don't know. I can't even say he feels like that. Like I said, I think whoever you talk to is lying. You know what I mean? Basically, actually, I mean those are my words about what's going on. Because I never got involved with none of them people. None of them.
Okay.
I didn't know them like that. I don't know the family or anything of that nature. So
are you understanding what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I understand exactly what you said, but I don't understand how they feel that I had a beef with them because we usually go and come on our own free will and bother nobody. So I don't see where I have beef with anybody up here.
Well, I'm just, as long as you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know where the misunderstanding may have come from, but it exists. That viewpoint is out there. So I want to do something to dispel that viewpoint.
Well, you just tell him I told Mr. Ford, he said it's wrong. I believe he's wrong.
And you think that's going to work?
Oh, that work.
It won't work. No, that won't work.
Well, you know.
That's not going to work. We need something a little more convincing than that.
Detective Tanisha, listen. They have to have respect for your position and honor your word.
Okay. I can't even give them that because I still can't prove it. I have to prove it. That would still be a belief on my part. I have to prove that. So there's only a few ways I can prove that. If you were in your house and in your bed, you're not in front of a camera somewhere saying, hey, he was elsewhere. You were on that street, across the street. So no matter what I believe, I can't prove that. I can't prove that you didn't come out of your house and go across the street. I can't prove that. But, so short of that, the only thing I have, because my word is not enough. If my word was enough, 2 other homicides would already be solved. Because I have a belief about who did another homicide, but I can't prove it.
Right.
It comes down to proving. My word, I wish my word was enough, but it's not.
Oh, I got you.
So I'm just looking for some proof to dispel and calm some people's beliefs and their feelings. I just want to do that.
Well, why do they feel that?
I don't know how. I wasn't on the street.
It was hostile towards me. I was hostile towards them. I don't understand that.
Let me say this. I'm coming after the fact. So I don't know what was going on in that street and who said what to whom and who looked at her. I don't know. All I know is several people had the impression that there was bad blood between the 2 households. And I don't know how it got that way. I don't know where that belief came. I just know that belief is in existence. And I'd like to do something to dispel that because I don't want to see someone, take the law in their own hands and they're wrong. But by the time they're wrong, something's happened with you or your family.
I understand that.
So,
I don't even know his family.
yeah, your name has come up about 20 times.
Oh, well, I don't know why. I don't know why my name come up.
It's after somebody tells somebody about an argument, then they tell the next person, they'll call another family member, and they had an argument, and didn't they tell? So it spreads like that.
Yeah, but I never had an argument with them.
I don't know why, but they're saying that you and Jeannie had or Gloria, Miss Hart, you guys had an argument that Sunday.
That is a lie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whoever telling you that, they could be the one just trying to shift the. But no, I didn't have no argument with Jeannie. What would I argue with Jeannie for? I mean,
I don't know. I'm just letting you know it.
I don't even know Jeannie to argue with Jeannie.
What I'm just letting you know is whether it's truth or fact, rumors are dangerous. Rumors can be very dangerous, especially when you feel like
You know what I mean? Haters will spread rumors and get you jumped up. That's why I'm not bothered with people.
So when rumors and hurt feelings mix, they're not really good. So I desperately would like to do something to end that.
Yeah.
So
I'm being pursued because there's rumors out here about.
You see, you use the word pursued. Who's pursuing you?
Well, you are to a degree.
No, I'm not.
You do your job.
I have not banged on your door.
No.
I have called you to ask if you're willing to dispel this rumor. That's different from pursue.
Okay.
Much different from pursue.
All right. I use the wrong word. I'm sort of tired. Like a morning person.
Yeah.
I'll be out at night. It's just dangerous out there at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nightlife is dangerous, man. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for calling me back. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully at 11:10 it's not too late for you to get some good sleep.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of late because, we get up early and do things and we try to get in at appropriate time to get back up the next day to do some more things.
All righty.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I will look forward to hearing from you by Friday.
Oh, this Friday? That's tomorrow.
No, it's Wednesday, right?
Oh, yeah, that's tomorrow. You want to say that Thursday.
Well, by Monday. How about Monday?
Okay, all right, let me see what I can do, Tanisha.
All righty.
Okay, but those are like lies this morning. Oh, seriously.
Like I said, it's not about what I believe. It's about what other people believe and what they'll do about their beliefs.
Oh,
That's what it's coming down to. It's what they believe in and what they'll do based on their beliefs.
okay, but I did not have an argument with somebody. Matter of fact, I don't even argue with ladies, you know what I mean? I don't even put my hands on it. I don't argue with females, so what?
All righty.
I have no reason. But anyway, okay, then I get a hold of somebody, see what's going on, Tanisha.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, Detective Stewart, at this point in your investigation, did you do anything in addition after you spoke with the defendant?
That's a very vague question.
Yeah, sure. What did you do next to try to determine who started this fire?
Again, there's time gaps in there between April and July. With reviewing video, talking to other family members, potential witnesses, neighbors, follow-up interviews, cell phone tower information, just follow wherever the leads went.
Okay. From different witnesses, different things, you were just following leads, doing your work, and then that interview occurred in July?
Yes.
Okay. And at this point, did you feel that you had enough information or evidence to arrest anyone?
No.
Okay. And can you tell the jury why?
There were two things. The totality of the circumstances and preponderance of the evidence. There was not enough against anyone.
Yeah, as to the legal terms,
So,
Okay.
if you can phrase it in your perspective, so the objection sustained, as to the legal conclusion.
Okay. There was not enough evidence against anyone that I felt would hold up for a probable cause warrant for arrest for anyone for that crime.
Okay. And so, certainly, did you have suspects?
Yes.
Was the defendant one of your suspects?
Yes.
Mr. McLemore, was he a suspect?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Garrett, was he a suspect?
Yes.
Miss Lewis, was she a suspect? At that
Yes.
time? During the course of your investigation and speaking with the witnesses, how would you describe the people that were hanging out there at 719 Fultz at Lindell Lewis's house?
Could you say that one more time?
How would you describe that crowd that was hanging out there based on all the witnesses that you had spoken with?
Based on the witnesses, it sounded like it was a house that they like to sit outside, maybe have some drinks or something, chit-chat on the porch, but it sounded like it was a house that he had several tenants they like to hang outside.
Yep. Now, the second fire occurs in May of 2017. Were you made aware of that?
Yes.
And were you made aware of where that fire occurred?
Say that one more time.
Do you know where that second fire occurred, that second house fire?
The second house fire was further down on Fultz.
Okay. If I told you it was 693 Fultz, would you have any reason to disagree with that?
I wouldn't disagree.
Okay. And that was in May of 2017?
Yes.
And who is the primary detective assigned to that investigation?
Detective Looney.
Okay, and you're pointing to this man here
Yes.
with the bald head? Okay. And did you work with Detective Looney on his case and your case after that fire in May of 2017?
We did have some crossover in our investigations.
Okay, and what types of crossover? Describe that for the jury. What did you do?
One, we had a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, that's mischaracterization, but a fair amount of conversation about some of the overlaps in the case, some information that he had gleaned from some neighbors, also looking at video, and also some of the verbiage that was used in my interview with the defendant and his.
Okay, so it's sort of similar.
Yes.
And you said that you had watched video of your incident back in April of 2016, correct?
Yes.
And where was that primarily from, that video?
Say that one more time.
Where was the video from that you observed and watched in 2016, back when you did that initially?
Oh, in 2016, it was from two separate places. It was from the decedent's house and also from across the street from Mr. Chester Williams' house.
Okay. And after the May of 2017 fire, did you go back and look at that video footage again?
Yes.
Okay. And did you notice things that were different?
Yes. I noticed things that did not illuminate themselves to me initially.
What types of things?
Motion in the driveway, lights illuminating inside the house at 1374 Hillcrest. Those things I did not see in my initial review of the video.
In your initial investigation in April 2016, did you even know the significance of 1374 Hillcrest?
I didn't appreciate the full significance of it, no.
Okay. At that time, in April 2016, did you go get a search warrant for 1374 Hillcrest?
No.
Did you know that there were alarm codes associated with 1374 Hillcrest?
No.
After the second fire in May of 2017, Detective Stewart, were you able to learn what the defendant's feelings were towards that family that lived at 693 Fultz?
You said before or after?
After the fire in May of 2017, were you able to learn what the defendant's feelings were for that family at the second fire location?
Yes.
We'll withdraw that question, Judge.
Okay. Well, that will be withdrawn. You will not answer, Detective. Thank you. Or is it nurse?
We'll call you.
RN?
Tunisia will do.
All right.
I get 1 minute, Your Honor. Miss, or Detective Stewart, excuse me, you had identified the defendant in this case, Stanley Ford, as someone who you had spoke with at the side of the house there on April 18th of 2016, and you spoke with on the phone on July 6th of 2016. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
And you pointed to this man over here, correct?
Correct.
Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case. And I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, Norman. Let's do that. Yeah. What is it, Mr. Reese, Judge? I think you're going to want to use the black one there. Because see how.
I think you need to come aside.
I think it's. Oh, never mind. It's all.
Here would be great if we could walk by when we need to.
Everybody needs.
Push that other side all the way down. There you go. All right.
and gentlemen. It's 10 after 4. We were talking at sidebar timing-wise, only because we believe the cross-examination and possibly the redirect of this detective will go past 5 o'clock. And so in an effort to kind of keep us on time, we're going to break here. I'm going to give Detective Stewart some admonitions about her testimony. And then we'll pick it up with Mr. Gorman's cross-examination of her in the morning. What I want to know, because we made some modifications for tomorrow, for juror number 7, who's not here now, can everybody be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow? By show of hands. Mr. Lovelace, you just want to sleep in. It's not that you can't be. No, do you have something? Tell me if you do. What time? All right. Can you be here at 9 then? Or can you cancel that and reschedule it? Yes? I mean, I know it's important. In this day and age, haircuts are very important, right? Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate your accommodating the court, and then this way we can stay on schedule for tomorrow. So if you'll be in the jury room at about 5 to 9, we'll start promptly at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Remember I almost forgot. Remember the admonition I've given you in all breaks. It's important that you be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Do not permit anyone to discuss it in your presence. Do not talk about it with your family, friends, or the media. You must not post or read anything about this case, whether on the internet or including any device and your cell phones. If discovered, such discussions could lead to a mistrial and severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, and again, do not form or express an opinion on this case until it's finally been submitted to you. So we're going to adjourn for the night, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 9.
All right, please, you don't have space down on your seats.
You'll remain under oath through the evening. Do not discuss the state of your testimony or what you've testified to so far, and you may not speak